Hey guys, it's Kylie and welcome back to my channel. So today I have a fun knit stitch tutorial for y'all. I'm going to show you how to knit the seed stitch. So I have a sample right here of the seed stitch. You can see the pretty texture that the seed stitch has. That is one word that I would definitely use to describe the seed stitch is texture. This is a super easy and fun stitch to knit. You need to know 3 basic things to be able to work the stitch. You need to know how to cast on, you need to know how to do the knit stitch, and you also need to know how to do the purl stitch. If you can do all 3 of those things, then you can do the seed stitch. So basically what gives the seed stitch its texture is by knitting in the purl stitches and purling in the knit stitches. So whatever stitch you come to, you're basically going to do the opposite. So if you come to a knit stitch, you're going to purl in it, and if you come to a purl stitch, you're going to knit into it. And I will show you the difference between what a knit and a purl stitch looks like if you don't know. And another great thing with this stitch is that you can work it with any number of stitches, whether you have an odd number of stitches or an even number of stitches. It doesn't matter. As long as you can tell the difference between your knit and purl stitches, you can do this stitch with any number of stitches cast on. But before I go any farther in this tutorial, I do want to say if you like this video so far, if you'd give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel to never miss other knit stitch tutorials and free patterns and also crochet tutorials if you're interested in crochet and stuff like that. Be sure to subscribe so you'll never miss anything new. And I'm going to go ahead and jump right in and show you the difference between a knit stitch and a purl stitch. Okay, so I've zoomed in some so you can see the stitches a little bit more closely. I'm going to show you an easy way to tell the difference between a knit stitch and a purl stitch. So when you're looking at my work, you can see how we have 2 different shapes of stitches here. We have one that is like a sideways little bump, and then we have one that looks like a V. And the easy way to tell this is the V is a knit stitch, so it kind of looks like a K. If you look at that, like a K for knit. And then this little bump here is a purl stitch. So that is the easy way to tell them apart. So this looks like kind of like a K, or the, the sides of a K, the knit, and the bump, or like the round of a P for a purl stitch. So when you come to these stitches, you're going to purl in your knit stitch. You're going to do the opposite of whatever it is. And when you come to this stitch, which is a purl stitch, you're going to knit in it. So if I go here to the end of my work, and if I was going to pick up where I left off, which I will show you how to start on a completely new set of stitches that you've just cast on, I would look and I could see that I have a bump that looks like right there at the very first stitch. Sometimes the first stitch is hardest to tell because it kind of moves, but you can see that this one's a purl stitch and this one's a knit stitch. So I'm going to start this row by knitting the first stitch, purling the second stitch, knitting the next stitch, purling the next stitch. It's just a 2-row repeat. So you can see there, that's a purl stitch, that's a knit stitch, that's a purl stitch, that's a knit stitch. So you're basically going purl in your knit stitches and knit your purl stitches. And I'll grab my stitches that I just cast on. Okay, so to show y'all how to knit the seed stitch, I have cast on an even number of stitches. I have cast on 12 stitches. And I'm going to show you how to do this on an even number, although like I explained, you can do it on an odd number too if you can tell the difference between your knit and purl stitches. So to get started, I am going to knit in the first stitch, and I'm going to purl the second stitch. And then I am simply just going to repeat that all the way across. I'm going to knit the next stitch, my yarn the front, purl the next stitch. And it may look like I'm holding my yarn funny because I typically hold my yarn this way when I knit, but for the sake of this tutorial, I am holding it this way because I know there's a lot of y'all that knit with y'all's yarn on the right. And you're just going to continue to repeat knit 1, purl 1 all the way across. Put my yarn in the back, knit 1, yarn to front, purl 1, yarn to back, knit 1, yarn to front, purl 1. After you've reached the end, we'll just turn our work. And this time, for row 2, you're going to start with a purl stitch. You're going to purl one, knit one, and repeat that across. But you can always tell what you need to start with by looking at your previous stitch. So you can look here, and the first stitch is always the hardest to tell, but I can tell that that's a knit stitch, and that second one's a purl stitch. So we're going to start with a purl stitch. And then we're going to knit one. Then we're going to purl one. Then we're going to knit one. Purl one. Knit one. And that's how you can easily tell no matter how many numbers of stitches you have, whether they're odd or even, is just by looking. So I know that this is a knit stitch, so I'm going to purl this stitch. I know this is a purl stitch, so I'm going to knit this stitch. So if you lay your work down and can't remember where you left off, it's easy to pick it up and to start again without having to get off pattern. And I know one of the common mistakes that I've heard that people make with the seed stitch is it starts looking like a ribbing instead of seed stitch. It starts looking like ribbing on the bottom of the hat, and that's because they put knit stitches and knit stitches and purl stitches and purl stitches. But once you learn to tell the difference and you know that the seed stitch is made by alternating and doing the opposite of whatever your previous stitch is, you won't have any trouble. Okay, almost done. Okay, so you can kind of tell it's starting to barely look like the seed stitch. It'll even look more like it as we go on, like it does in this example. So to continue the seed stitch, if you have an even number of stitches, you will just continue repeating rows 1 and 2 back and forth. But like I said, you can always tell what you need to start with by looking at the stitches. So I can tell that this is a purl stitch, so I'm going to start with a knit stitch. That's a knit stitch, and I'll purl. So I'll knit, purl, knit, purl, and work my way across. And that is how easy it is to do the seed stitch. I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, be sure and give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment below if you haven't never tried this stitch before and you just give it a try, and let me know how it's going for y'all guys. And be sure to check out my channel for other knitting tutorials, and happy knitting, guys.